Hey, welcome, Quicksters. I'm Susie along with James. We're here to talk about AI.
Yeah, and the necklace that Susie's wearing because it's
Oh,
lovely,
yeah.
and
I got
I'm
it in New
sad I
York.
don't have one.
Thank
So
you.
it's very
Thank you.
nice.
My daughter bought it for me. So
Oh, very fancy.
shout out, because I know none of my kids probably listen to this, but
What do you mean?
no, they
Aren't they in
probably
the other
all
room
listen
right
to
now listening live?
it. They are. They're
Don't-
chained to the couch
well,
to listen.
that's a different problem.
My kids are old, so don't worry. There's nothing bad going on the couch.
Okay, let's slow down here. Your choice of adjectives is tough. You have grown adult children, not old.
Yes, fair. Okay,
And they
thank
have
you.
lives and jobs and stuff, and so they are out of the home, not chained to the
Yes.
couch as if they were
Yes.
toddlers who are not being fed adequately.
Thank you.
So
Thank you. You added context. What a great segue, because we were
there we
just
go.
talking about
You
how
totally were.
AI is limited by the knowledge that you give it and what
Right.
are the negative outcomes of that. And context is important.
Context is incredibly important. And I think the topic we wanted to dance around is how that human context, and as a leader, how do you balance the use of AI and the human touch elements? Because I think that's a really interesting question all of a sudden when as people are not thinking much about what AI can't do, they're thinking about what AI can do. And I think the human element is a key part there.
What it makes me think of is, I talk a lot about situational awareness in the workshops that I teach and how important it is to understand the stakes of the situation. But the more interesting thing is the interests of the other party and what are the nuances that are going on around you. There's so much more to read in a room
Sure.
and your influence. And so those are the things that we take for granted sometimes that we're doing in real time.
Oh,
And
yeah.
that's the human aspect.
Exactly right. And I think that when you look at some statistics around the importance of a manager, it's pretty incredible. I think I read that remote employees who regularly hear from their leadership, have context with their leadership, have a more than 50% higher trust and alignment with the company's direction. So it's that context. It's not that, hey, we want to grow by 2% and tackle this market. The context that leader provides to the employees really improves the way that they perform.
What that trust means is they have their back.
Yes.
That means they understand. They don't need to understand it all. I like how you said that you do need to understand the results that you're driving toward, but you need to know that there's somebody there for you that's helping you maneuver through.
Right.
And that trust is so important. That's one of, as we've talked about before, that's one of 4 aspects that followers need to be more successful is trust.
Right. What's crazy is that I read that only 29% of employees perceive their leaders as demonstrating human leadership.
Wow.
That's such a low number. We have such a crisis of trust with our managers and our leaders and our employees right at a time when we're all of a sudden having this AI rollout, which is just certainly fuel to the fire.
Yeah. And it's so important that you have that human element. And I just wonder if that stat is pre-AI or is it now? And it's only going to get worse because we're going to depend more and more on it.
Yeah, I think the number was trust in managers dropped from like 40% to 20% in the last 2 years. This is a 2024 number.
It's going down.
So it's going down. I do think that, data aside, anecdotally, I feel that that's pretty fair. I mean, the managers that I followed were the ones that I understood that they were struggling and that they were dealing with the issues as a human. The ones that, I struggled to follow and appreciate were the ones that were, telling us to follow direction without any sort of input or blindly following direction without any sorts of reality. And so that trust is what I anecdotally, personally feel is huge. And I think the data shows that.
Yeah. It makes me think of a few weeks ago, I work with teams a lot. And part of what I try to get people to think about is how they interact. How can they better understand one another? How do you build that trust really within the team? And it was really interesting because I gave them an assignment to do before we met. And every single person used leveraged AI. And I wasn't expecting that at all. So what that meant was instead of taking time thinking about their coworkers and considering how they show up or what their needs are or what they bring, what are their strengths, They took the prompt, they
What,
took
can
the
you
results.
tell me a little more about the prompt? What was the prompt like?
So the prompt was, I want you to think about some stories that illustrate how you're the same, how you're different, how
Oh, you and
you
your coworker.
interact. Yes, you and your
Oh,
coworker. And so what the team did was they took those questions that I
sure.
asked, and I meant to just give them a list of things to consider. I didn't
Yeah,
mean
don't
for them
answer every
to be
question.
black and
Yeah,
white,
yeah, yeah.
but because I had given them bullets, they took the bullets and then we do Clifton Strengths. They took the results of that team person and they put those in. And it
Right,
was fascinating to me because it never occurred to me that anybody would do that,
right, right,
because
right.
the whole point was for you to consider that interaction, that nuance, the fascia that is between you and your coworker and what that means to you so that you could share it with the rest of the team.
What a really great story that is. That's such an easy thing to do. Hey, I've got what this person's defined as. I've got
Yeah.
these questions. I'll let the language model match the things that match and show us where we're different. And I won't even have to talk to this person. I don't even have to
Yeah.
get to know them. I just know that we both are attention to detail and I like to talk and they're more of an introvert. Okay, there we go. I know that. Thank you,
Yeah.
AI.
You
That's
know
so
what's even
interesting.
more interesting is it didn't feel like anybody like read it and when went, and this is so true, or
Right. They
it
just,
was really off. It
even
felt
worse.
to me, right, like they even like that next step.
Right,
It's
right.
like they just pulled up their phone and
Did it.
read to check the box. And so I think it does illustrate that we need to be really cautious and smart
Hmm.
about how we leverage AI, but how we show up as humans
Hmm.
and how we build trust
Right.
is really important to keep intentional.
Yeah. And I think as leaders, we need to be intentional about that and remember
Hmm.
that we can use tools to do lots of things. We can use tools to write software. We can use tools to put strategic plans together. We can use tools to find new and exciting markets. But as leaders, if we're not injecting the human element into the system, we're not going to be as productive. We're not going to be as effective. And ultimately, we won't succeed in our role. I think, is that a
Yeah.
fair way to summarize that?
Yeah, I think so. And when you were saying, I was like, what are the things that I'd like people to think about is it's like having a one-on-one and you agree that you're both going to have your laptops between you.
Mm,
And so that's like kind of the visual. Where are you prioritizing this interpretation of the person that's sitting in front of you? And to your point, it's okay to have a one on one agenda being made by AI or the notes from your meeting.
hmm.
But when it comes to it, take that and even say it out loud. I used AI to come up with some prompts that I want to talk about today, but at least call a spade a spade.
Right. Nobody ever said, hey, I used my word processor to type this last night. So, I'm not a good speller. The word processor did it for me. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's insane. You would never do that. But at the same time, you would be clear on the value of that conversation and what it came up with. So yes, if I can just project and say, look, using technology to advance your functionality is great, feel free to tell people you used it, but certainly it isn't a replacement for the engagement part of the equation.
Engagement's really important because when you don't have engaged employees, you're not getting the best out of them.
Hmm.
And so they're just quietly not fully doing what you need them to do. So it is going to really affect the bottom line
For sure.
over time. And you may not notice it
Right.
at first. It may not be obvious. I think that's what's really frightening about it.
The data is about 70% of CEOs believe AI will bolster their value, but I don't know that we are thinking through that arc on the criticality of the human connection and the realization that, yes, this will improve certain things, but if done poorly, it only can go so far. We will see a maximum value of the accelerant, the connections it can make, the thinking it can do, the statistics at high speed essentially is one value, but without the actual human element inserted into that, I really do think you'll see companies start to fall down.
You know what it made me think of too, like the practical. I could see a leader getting really excited about chunking some numbers and using AI and then going to the meeting and instead of going, how are you today? Going,
Right.
look at what I've done and
Right.
jumping right into it
Right.
because we're accelerated so much. So making that space for that connection, even a little bit, like taking that time before you go into what are the things that we're trying to
Right.
achieve? How can we capitalize on this? Because there's so much momentum, but we
Sure.
need to make the space to make sure that that human piece is fulfilled.
I totally agree with you. And I think that there's a neat analogy between RTO and AI, and that, I think we are now in maybe year 5 of a really aggressive work from home economy. And we are still asking questions about whether it's good or not. We're asking questions of how important it is for people to be back in the office. It's very polarizing. We have large companies that are forcing everyone back in the office. BlackRock is. I've heard at the end of the fall, we've got Goldman is being really aggressive. Several companies have pushed really hard. Dell did so. But the questions being asked are, wait a minute, it seemed obvious that if we could all work from home, things would be better. There was a great school of thought there. We just could never do it to the scale we are. And now we are. And I feel like we've seen the best it can be. And now we've got to kind of readjust. And so that's like this pendulum swing, and we'll find that middle ground. And I wonder if AI will be the same thing. Yes, we got the number right. Yes, we got the number quick, but nobody knows how we did it. We don't have the context, and nobody has the ownership of it because they don't know how we got there. And nobody's willing to follow it because there was no trust. And so that reinjection of the human connection, I think, could be very similar to RTO.
When you were saying that and that pendulums, instead of watching it and waiting for it to go all the way and then reassessing where you need to have it fall in the middle, is how do you insert that optic or that observation of what's going on with your team on a regular basis as it relates to trust? Maybe that's the metric that people need to be thinking about, is where are the trust level with your team, and how can I improve that during this time when we're really trying to aggressively leverage AI every single day?
Yeah, I think that's ultimately the leader's paradox. And I think that's the subject for the podcast. It's balancing the AI adoption with the human connection. And as leaders, if that pendulum is swinging, I think we don't want to go to where the pendulum is. We want to go to where the pendulum is going to be. And that's going to probably settle into a balance of technology, tools, and the human connection.
Yeah. I think would really help us if people are listening to this and they're taking action. We'd love to hear from them.
Yeah, what are they doing?
And seeing what they do. What are your best practices? We'd love to tell your story here.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, let us know. How are you inserting trust and human connection when everybody's rushing hard not to talk to each other?
Yeah. Well, it's a news story that is going to continue to be talked about.
Yep.
And we'll continue to face up against AI, I guess.
Sounds great.